Some rooms are not built for charity, they are built for ego. The Skylines and Futures Charity Gala was exactly that kind of place. Everything about it felt polished and perfect on the surface, but hollow underneath. White marble floors reflected the glow of crystal chandeliers. Champagne glasses clinked softly in the air, and men in tuxedos stood in small circles, praising each other as if they had personally designed the future of the city. I stood quietly near the architectural model of the new spire, blending into the background like I had done so many times before. That was my role now. The silent partner, the invisible wife. No one looked twice at me, and honestly, that was exactly how I wanted it. Then Kayla arrived. She didn't walk across the room, she performed. Every step was calculated, every movement designed to be noticed. At 24, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who believed the world already belonged to her. Her clothes were expensive, far too expensive for someone with her job title. And her smile changed the moment her eyes landed on me. Sharp, measuring, judging. She stopped in front of me, slowly swirling her drink, letting her gaze travel from my shoes to my face as if she were inspecting something defective. "It's good Jason has a sanctuary at the studio," she said casually, just loud enough for the nearby wives of board members to hear. "Some environments just stifle creativity. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community." Most women would have frozen in that moment. Some would have forced a polite smile. Others would have tried to defend themselves and only ended up looking smaller. But I am not most women. For 15 years, I worked as a senior auditor at one of the largest financial firms in the state. I don't react to situations. I study them, and when I find something that doesn't add up, I don't argue. I apply pressure. My pulse stayed steady. My face didn't change. Not a single drop of my sparkling water moved. I simply stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, close enough to see the thick layer of makeup trying to hide the stress on her skin, close enough to catch the expensive vanilla scent of her perfume, and the faint trace of something else. Nervousness. I smiled. Calm. Pleasant. The kind of smile you give when you discover an error in a report that no one else noticed. Then I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice so only she could hear me. "Does Robert know about the wire transfer on July 9th? I asked. Everything changed in an instant. Her smile didn't fade. It broke. The color drained from her face so quickly it was almost shocking. Her fingers tightened around her champagne glass until her knuckles turned white and the liquid inside trembled, dangerously close to spilling. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The confidence was gone. The arrogance was gone. All that was left was fear. The kind of fear that comes when someone realizes they were never in control. "Enjoy the evening, Kayla," I said calmly, stepping back and smoothing my dress. "The models this year are fascinating." I turned away before she could recover. I didn't need to look back to know what she looked like. I didn't need to see her scanning the room, searching for Jason, panic rising in her chest. I already knew, because this wasn't a random moment. It was calculated. My hands were steady. My breathing was normal. This wasn't an emotional reaction. It was a transaction, and I had just collected the first installment of a very large debt. But to understand why one simple date could break someone like Kayla, you have to understand the man standing between us. Or more accurately, the man she thought she was winning and the man I was quietly dismantling. It started 6 months ago. Not with a fight, not with a confession, with a pattern. Jason and I had been married for 9 years. I knew his habits the way I knew financial systems down to the smallest detail. He was the lead architect at Sterling and Associates, precise, ambitious, obsessed with legacy. He didn't just want to build buildings, he wanted to be remembered for them. Late nights were normal in his world. But 6 months ago, something changed. Before, he would come home tired, smelling like coffee and paper, talking nonstop about work, complaints about engineers, excitement over designs. There was always something. Then silence. He started coming home with no smell at all. No stress. No trace of work. Just clean. To clean. Like something had been erased. He would go straight to the shower, washing away evidence I hadn't even started looking for. He stopped eating dinner, stopped asking about my day, stopped seeing me. I'm not a jealous woman. Jealousy wastes energy. But I observe and I noticed everything. The phone turned face down, the sudden privacy, the way he looked at me, not with anger but with dismissal, like I was outdated, replaceable. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought I had lost my edge. He forgot who I used to be. Before I was his wife, I was the person companies hired to find what others tried to hide. I don't need confessions. I just need patterns. So I didn't argue. I didn't question. I didn't react. I opened a mental file. And I started watching when he came home late, expecting a fight. I gave him nothing. No anger. No emotion. Just silence. Dinner is in the microwave. I would say, without even looking up. When he made small insults, I nodded. I'll take care of it. It worked, exactly as expected. Within weeks, he stopped being careful. He left his phone out. He took calls openly. He assumed I was too distracted. Too simple, too irrelevant to understand. He was wrong. He talked about something called Project Omni. But not like an architect. Not about design. Not about structure. He talked about it like it was something messy, something risky. One night, in November, he stood in the living room with a drink in his hand, pacing. They're pushing the timeline, he muttered. Robert wants it ready by July. The cost of materials, I asked quietly, barely looking up. He snapped, the cost of getting it done, the friction costs. The things you pay to make problems disappear. I didn't react, but I noted it. In my world, friction costs usually means one thing. Bribes. He thought I didn't understand. He thought I was passive, but while he was building a project, I was building a case, and I was getting close to the piece that would destroy everything. The moment that confirmed everything wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Our 9th anniversary. I had booked a table weeks in advance at one of the best restaurants in the city. I sat there alone for 45 minutes, watching the candle slowly burn down. At 8:30, my phone buzzed, a text. Not a call. Not an apology. Just a message, emergency site visit, structural issue, don't wait up. I did not reply. I paid the cancellation fee for the table, walked to my car, and drove home in silence. When Jason finally walked through the door at 100 a.m., he did not apologize. He looked annoyed that I was still awake, sitting in the living room with the lights off. Don't start, he said, loosening his tie. I saved the project tonight. You should be thanking me. It is our anniversary, Jason, I said. My voice was calm, almost clinical. He stopped, poured himself a drink, and laughed a short, sharp bark of disbelief. God, you are so small-minded sometimes. I am building the skyline of the city, Heather. I am dealing with millions of dollars and thousands of lives. And you are worried about a dinner date. You have no concept of the complexity I deal with. You would not understand the scale. That was the sentence. You would not understand. He drank his scotch, turned off the lights, and went to bed without another word. He slept soundly. The sleep of a man who believes he is untouchable. I did not sleep. I went to the study and booted up my laptop. He was right about one thing. I did not understand the complexity of his project, but I understand numbers. And if he was going to treat our marriage like a business arrangement, where I was the silent partner, then it was time for the silent partner to audit the books. I did not look for texts. I did not look for emails. I went straight to the money. I logged into our joint investment accounts. Jason was sloppy with money because he was arrogant. He assumed that because he made it, he could spend it without oversight. He assumed I only checked the checking account for grocery money. I pulled the transaction history for the last 12 months. I exported the data into a spreadsheet. I started filtering. I looked for outliers, irregular withdrawals, cash advances. Most of it was noise, dinners, hotels, the usual overhead of a wandering eye, but then I saw it. July 9th, a single wire transfer, $62,500. It was not sent to a jewelry store. It was not sent to a luxury resort. It was labeled consulting fee external. I stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting in my glasses. In my 15 years of auditing, I have learned that round numbers are rarely honest. Legitimate bills have cents, they have tax, they have odd remainders. $62,500 flat is a bribe. It is a payoff, and it came from our personal savings, not the firm's account. Why would a lead architect pay a consultant nearly $70,000 from his own pocket? There is only one reason: he could not bill it to the client. And he could not let the firm's accounting department see it. This was not an affair. You do not pay a mistress via wire transfer with a memo line. This was hush money. I looked at the date again. July 9th. That was 3 days before the city inspector signed off on the concrete pour for the Spire's foundation. My stomach did not drop, it tightened. I was not looking at a cheating husband anymore. I was looking at a man who had purchased silence to cover up a mistake that could not be fixed. I closed the laptop. Tears are variables I could not afford. Right now, I needed the raw data. Jason thinks he is a complex man. He believes his mind is a labyrinth that no one else can navigate. But in reality, his security practices are as predictable as his ego. I sat in the blue glow of my laptop screen, the cursor blinking in the password field for the firm's remote cloud server. I did not need to guess. I did not need a hacker. I typed Sterling Legacy 85, access granted. He had been using the same password since he made lead architect. He thought it was secure because it had a special character. He never imagined that his wife, the woman who whereupon while he ranted about zoning laws, would know the URL to the firm's private FTP site. I was not interested in his email. I was not looking for love letters, affairs are emotional. I was hunting for the structural defect in his life. I went straight to the directory labeled Project Omni. The file structure was immense. Gigabytes of CAD drawings, environmental impact reports, and vendor contracts. A lesser person would have been overwhelmed by the data, but I spent a decade auditing Fortune 500 companies. I know how to filter the noise. I pulled up the timestamp of the wire transfer, July 9th to 15 p.m. I cross-referenced it with the server login for that exact hour. While the money was leaving our personal account, Jason's user ID was active in a subfolder titled External Consultants Safety Compliance. I clicked the folder, it was empty, 0 items, last modified July 9th to 45 p.m. He had wiped it. 30 minutes after the money moved, the evidence vanished. To Jason, that probably felt like a clean getaway. He hit delete, cleared the trash, and assumed the problem was gone. I almost smiled. It was cute, really. He treated a corporate cloud server like it was a home desktop. He forgot about redundancy. He forgot about the automated shadow copies that the server creates every hour. To prevent data loss from crashes, nothing is ever truly deleted, it is just overwritten. And if you know where to look, you can peel back the layers of time. I opened the command terminal. I navigated to the hidden backup directory, the digital basement where the ghosts of deleted files live. I searched for the folder ID. There it was, a ghost image from July 9th. One pen before the purge. Inside there was a single PDF file, Omni. Tower Core Sample Analysis Final PDF. My finger hovered over the Enter key. The house was silent. Upstairs, Jason was snoring, dreaming of his ribbon-cutting ceremony. He was dreaming of the applause. He had no idea that downstairs his wife was about to resurrect the thing he had paid $62,000 to bury. I was not looking at a screen anymore. I was looking at the barrel of a gun, and I was the one pulling the trigger. I double-clicked the file. Downloaded in seconds. I opened it. The document was not a love note. It was not a photo of Kayla. It was a grid of numbers, tensile strength, compression ratios, aggregate density. I scanned the columns. I did not need to be an engineer to read. A pass-fail chart. Sector for North Foundation fail, sector for East Foundation fail, concrete density 18% below code requirements. I stopped breathing. The $62,000 was not for sex, it was for silence. The foundation of the spire, the crown jewel of the city, the building Jason had staked his entire career on was compromised. The concrete was too weak. If that building went up, it would not just be a failure, it would be a tomb. I looked at the signature at the bottom of the failed report, Inspector Davis. Then I studied the next page, a revised report dated July 10th, the day after the wire transfer. The numbers had been changed. The failed stamp was gone, replaced by a stamp that said approved, and there, right next to the approval, was Jason's digital signature. He knew he did not just hide it, he authorized it. He paid a bribe to fake a safety test so he would not miss his deadline. He was building a skyscraper on a lie that could kill thousands of people. I felt a coldness spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. The man I married was not just a cheater. He was a monster. And the woman he was cheating with, Kayla, she was not just a mistress. She was the one who processed the revised report. Her initials were on the file metadata. They were partners in crime. I saved the file to an encrypted external drive. Then, I emailed a copy to a secure account I had not used since my auditing days. I closed the laptop. I walked upstairs to the bedroom. I stood in the doorway watching Jason sleep. He looked peaceful. He looked successful. For the first time in 6 months, I did not feel small. I did not feel invisible. My eyes locked onto him and I realized I was the most powerful person in his world. He was sleeping in a house of cards and I had just removed the glue. Tomorrow night was the gala. Tomorrow night he would stand on a stage and talk about the future, and tomorrow night, I would introduce him to his past. I sat in the dark for 3 hours. The laptop screen had gone black, but the image of the structural report was burned into my retinas. Sector 4, North Foundation failed in architecture. They call it a catastrophic variance. In plain English, it means the concrete is too porous. It means if the wind hits the spire at the wrong angle or if the earth shifts even a fraction of an inch, the foundation will not hold the weight. It will not crack, it will pulverize. Jason was not building a legacy. He was building a tomb, and he had priced the lives of the future tenants at exactly $62,500. This is the moment where I should have felt rage. I should have felt the urge to wake him up, to scream, to throw things, but I did not feel anger. I felt a heavy, suffocating sorrow. It is a specific kind of pain that does not have a name in the greeting card aisle. It is the grief of the living. I studied the man sleeping in our bed. His chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. His hand was curled on the pillow, the same hand I had held at our wedding. The same hand that had built the deck in our backyard. Physically, he was right there, but the Jason I loved, the man with integrity. The man who wanted to build things that lasted, he was dead. He had died months ago quietly without a funeral. He had been replaced by this stranger who could sleep soundly knowing he had signed a death warrant for a skyscraper. I grieved him in the silence of that room. I grieved the future we were supposed to have. I grieved the trust I had invested in him. It felt like auditing a bankrupt company. You stare at the assets and realize they are all worthless. The emotional equity was gone. I did not cry. Tears are a biological response to hope, and I had none left. I just sat there and let the love I had for him curdle into something cold and hard. Something useful. By the time the sun came up, I was not a wife anymore. I was an executive. The morning of the gala was a masterclass in compartmentalization. Jason woke up nervous. He paced the kitchen, rehearsing his speech. He talked about vision and boldness. He asked if his tie was straight. He asked if I was proud of him. You look exactly like the man you have become, I told him. He took it as a compliment. He smiled, kissed my cheek, and checked his phone. He was texting Kayla. I knew because he angled the screen away. A reflex that had become as natural to him as breathing. I spent an hour on my makeup. I chose a dress that was structured, architectural, sharp armor. I was not dressing for a party. I was dressing for a demolition. The car ride to the museum was silent. Jason interpreted my silence as awe. He thought I was intimidated by the magnitude of his night. He reached over and patted my hand. Just follow my lead tonight, Heather, he said, his voice dripping with patronizing reassurance. Try to look happy. It reflects well on the firm. I will be the picture of support, I said. We pulled up to the valet. The lights of the museum were blinding. The paparazzi were waiting. Jason stepped out, buttoning his jacket, putting on his visionary architect face. I stepped out into the cold night air, clutching my clutch purse. Inside, tucked next to my lipstick, was a USB drive. We walked up the red carpet. He squeezed my waist, posing for the cameras. Ready? He asked. Ready, I said. We walked through the double doors and into the noise of the party. The champagne was flowing, the models were lit up, and across the room, wearing a dress that costs more than her rent, stood Kayla. She saw us, she smiled. She started walking over to deliver her insult. The timeline had caught up to itself. The investigation was over. The audit was complete. All that was left was to present the findings. The hallway outside the ballroom was lined with mirrors. It was a fitting place for an execution. I waited by the coat check when Jason and Kayla emerged, laughing about some inside joke. I stepped out from the shadows. I did not block their path. I did not need to. I just held up the USB drive. Kayla, stop. Her laugh died in her throat. Jason looked from the drive to my face, confusion warring with the first tremors of panic. Heather, he asked, what are you doing? The shadow copy, Jason, I said. My voice was soft, barely a whisper over the distant hum of the string quartet. Server cluster B, backup directory. You wiped the folder, but you forgot the redundancy protocols. The color drained from his face so fast it looked like a magic trick. He knew exactly what that meant. I have the failed report. I continued, turning my gaze to Kayla. And I have the revised version with your digital signature authorization, Kayla. And the wire transfer and the metadata linking both of you to a felony fraud. That endangers 3,000 lives. Kayla took a step back. You can't. I already did. I said it is on an encrypted server set to auto-forward to the Department of Buildings and the Metro Press at 900 a.m. tomorrow unless I enter a cancellation code. The silence in the hallway was absolute. What do you want? Jason whispered. He looked small. The visionary architect was gone. Only the desperate criminal remained. Compliance, I said. I turned to Kayla. You are going to resign tonight. You will cite family reasons and you will move back to whichever state you came from. If I ever see your name on a payroll in this city again, the file goes public. She did not argue. She did not look at Jason for help. She grabbed her coat and ran. She ran like the building was already collapsing. Then I looked at my husband. And you? I said, you are going to initiate an emergency retrofit on the North Foundation. You are going to pay for it out of your partnership equity. You will tell Robert it was a proactive safety enhancement. You will fix the concrete. Jason, every cubic inch. Heather, please, he stammered, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. I can explain. We can fix this marriage. We are not fixing the marriage, I said coldly. We are auditing it. The drive home was silent. Jason stared out the window, his hands shaking in his lap. He was waiting for me to scream. He was waiting for the explosion, but I did not give him that release. In philosophy, there is a concept called the panopticon. It is a prison design where the inmates can be watched at any moment. But they can never see the guard because they never know when they are being watched. They have to behave perfectly every single second. That is my marriage now. I did not divorce him. Divorce would have been messy. He would have fought for assets. He would have spun a narrative. Instead, I kept him in a prison of his own making. When we walked into the house, he hesitated in the foyer. He looked at me with terror in his eyes. He realized that I knew everything. He realized that he would never know how much more I knew. He will never cheat again. He will never hide $1 again. He will come home at 6 p.m. every night. And he will look at me and wonder if I am checking the logs. He will be the perfect husband, the perfect architect, and the perfect father because he knows I am the one holding the kill switch. I went upstairs and changed out of my armor. I put the USB drive in the safe. I lay down in bed for the first time in 6 months. The room felt light. The burden of suspicion was gone, replaced by the weight of absolute control. Jason came in an hour later. He slept on the edge of the mattress, afraid to move. Afraid to breathe too loudly. I closed my eyes and slept the deep, dreamless sleep of the auditor who has finally balanced the books. If you believe silence is the loudest form of power, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. Would you have exposed them publicly, or was Heather's quiet prison a worse punishment?